Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 3, Episode 2 of Apple TV's Ted Lasso, entitled I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea. This title has something of a dual meaning here. Directly, it shares the name of an Elvis Costello song that is absolutely terrible. I'm sorry if you're an Elvis Costello fan. I went and listened to that song after this episode. I was like, this song is awful. It could just be, I mean, it's before my time, so who knows. But secondly, it kind of gives away the climax of the episode, doesn't it? Right? Because like if you don't look at episode titles, which I figure probably most of you don't, it probably didn't give away anything. But the whole thing with this Zava character going to Chelsea, the whole time I'm just like, well, the episode title is I don't want to go to Chelsea, so I don't think that's gonna happen. But at the end of the episode, Zava does end up committing to Richmond, and I gotta say, I wasn't a fan of the scene that supposedly did it. Like, did anyone else feel Rebecca just going, like, you're scared and you can't carry a team anymore? You're scared that you can't carry a team anymore? Did anyone else feel that that would be enough to convince him to sign with a team that everyone expects to be as bad as they expect Richmond to be? Like, I don't know. I felt like they just didn't do a lot with that, that convincing by Rebecca, especially given everything that preceded it. Like, it didn't feel that way to me. It felt kind of lazy. I don't like using the word lazy, especially as it pertains to this show. But it's just like, I feel like they could have done a little bit more. But they did do enough for me to allow it because they did set up that guy is a diva. So it's believable that he has too much ego to allow one person to think that about him. But I just feel like if they had done just a little bit more, just a smidge more, to convince Zava to go to Richmond, that would have then also convinced me a little bit more that he would go to Richmond, and I'd feel less kind of like about it. I just don't feel like a guy who barely looked at Rebecca in the previous scene would make a massive career decision while pissing because the person that he just barely paid attention to in the previous scene says she doesn't think he's good anymore. Like, I don't know. I didn't really buy it. I felt like they could have did a little bit more with that. I did like the sour yell thing, though. I thought that was funny. I might even use that one day. Was it the opposite of sweet talk? I thought that was really good. But moving on now from the title, finally. I gotta say that while I enjoy practically every episode of this show, just solely off the strength of I like spending time with these characters, this season feels like it's off to a bit of a slow start to me. There's plenty to like here. I'm going to talk about it, but I do have some issues too, and they're not big right now, and we're only 2 episodes in, but there's some stuff I'm a little concerned about because I'm just like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, especially playing out over the course of, I want to say 12 episodes this season's supposed to be. But we'll start with the good stuff, though. Trent Crimm being around all the time to chronicle the team for a book, love it. With this being the final season, I appreciate the Trent Crimm character getting his flowers in this way. We're going to get to see him a whole lot more, and we're going to get to see that actor work a lot more. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the storyline for this season. I also loved the team's commitment to not speaking around him. After Roy said he put his head through their fucking skulls if he did it. Like, I'm not intimidated by most people, but like the way he said like my head through your fucking skull, like that sounds like the most horrific headbutt. I'm kind of like, yeah, I might not talk to the guy neither. Like, it's not worth it. Even if Roy don't do it, it's not really worth it. But most importantly, though, I love the insight we got into Roy and Trent's past in this episode. You know, the whole time I'm thinking, like, why does Roy hate him so much? Did I miss something? Like, is there something I'm forgetting about? Because, I mean, I didn't do a rewatch or anything, so I'm like, maybe there's something I just missed season 2. But there wasn't anything I missed. We find out in this episode that Trent wrote some pretty harsh critiques of a then 17-year-old Roy, and Roy had been carrying around that newspaper clipping in his wallet for literally like 20 fucking years. Like, I'm guessing here, I think it's safe to assume that the Roy character is probably 37 or older, right? So we'll say 20 years. But in addition to giving us some insight into how Roy handles criticism, not well, I also liked how Trent apologized for that. You know, he's kind of like, yo, I was young at the time. I was new. I thought being salacious and like being cruel to people was like good shit. Like, I thought that was how you were supposed to be. It's how like, look, we were both young. I think Roy says this. Like, they were both young and not good at what they do. And then he's like, look at us now. I thought that was a great scene. Really good scene. Unfortunately, this episode and this season's weak spots are something that I thought was one of the stronger aspects of the show up to this point, which is Keely and Rebecca. You know, they've been great as a pair. Like, as a pair, love them. Love them, love them. But this storyline of Keely having her own firm and dealing with the mouthy but very accurate and correct CFO, and then her hiring her friend because the friend gave some good advice on making the club look more crowded in the music video, don't need it. Boring. I don't know where this is going, but I'm not into it at all. Now, granted, it could become something I'm into, but I don't know. I don't see anything. I don't even see where this is going, much less have hope for where it's going. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm not interested. I want Keely back with everyone else at the stadium and working with the team and doing her own thing. These scenes of Keely on her own, I don't need those. Not a big fan. I'm also not into how Rebecca's actions all revolve around Rupert. You know, a big season 2 story arc was showing us how Rebecca has moved past Rupert and how she's trying to move past Rupert. Did we not all love the whole thing with her and Sam last season? Speaking of Sam, has he even had a line of dialogue yet? We need way more Sam. But, you know, and then not just that too, the whole thing of her and Sam, but just the whole thing of like her exploring dating and getting past Rupert and all of that. It shows so much growth with the Rebecca character. So for her to like not only have reverted, but seemingly gotten worse, like, I don't know. I don't like this at all. And I hope it's moving somewhere else and moving to that somewhere else real fucking quickly. Like, how she wasn't interested in Zava until she heard West Ham in this list of places that were interested in him. Like, that just like... And then Trent's like, are you only interested in Zava because you heard that Rupert is also? She's like, yeah. Like, I don't know, man. Like, why is someone who has been portrayed as a fucking boss? Like, again, that was like, what's her name? Nora, the daughter of the friend. What's the friend's name? Stinky? How didn't she call her like a fucking boss? Someone who's been portrayed as a fucking boss through the entire show's run is now running the team like a 14-year-old teenager making roster decisions based upon Rupert's potential interests. Like, it's not even unwise. It's stupid. Like, she even says, like, oh, he has a bad reputation. We don't need someone like that in the locker room. Like, she had the correct mindset. Does this player fit on my team? Until she heard West Ham, and then it's just like, fuck it, let's get him. Like, I don't know. I don't like it feels like they are dumbing down Rebecca or making her take a step back, and I don't like that for her. Like, I want her to get past this quick, because this is not becoming for her. Strong, tough, girl boss who isn't afraid to date the young black guy, because that's the Rebecca we need. Not this Rebecca who's just, what Rupert said it, then okay, well then I'm gonna do something. Like her whole life revolves around Rupert again. Like, we're the season 1, episode 1. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. On the flip side, though, I did enjoy hearing the story about how Rupert and Rebecca met. The whole thing of him being at this bar that she worked at with his wife, then returning without the wife, and constantly talking to her, just wanting to enjoy conversation, making her feel special, ultimately winning her over. And then later in the episode, after, or it was either after or before Zava interrupts their conversation, he says something to the effect of like, yeah, I just get tired of the same old, same old. And it's like, oh my goodness, because it just makes him look like an even bigger piece of shit. Like Rebecca, even though she hates Rupert right now, she finally remembers how special he made her feel. She's like, he made me feel like that. And he points to like Zava laughing and Rupert or whatever. She looks at that kind of like fondly as a good memory. Then we hear him tell it, and it just sounds like the MO of a fucking predator. Like, I had my wife, I found young Rebecca, I made the move on her, I was with her until she got too old, then I moved on to another 20-year-old. Nigga, he just sounds like a fucking piece of shit. And it's like, it's sad that like you have that juxtaposition of the exact same scenario being looked at kind of fondly from Rebecca's standpoint originally, and then when we look at it now, when we hear it from Rupert's side, it sounds totally different. I thought that was a really cool moment. The last thing I want to talk about is another good thing before I get into thoughts, because I have thoughts too. I love when we have game scenes. I kind of wish we had a game scene every episode. The scenes are always magnificently filmed. They're always exciting and fun to watch. And it's also when we get to see our crew over at Crown and Anchor. And I think we all like seeing those guys, right? So like, it was like that was kind of like a nice moment for me. Like, oh, there they are. Like, I had forgotten about them. Because like, you know, in episode 1, we didn't see much of the team. We saw a lot of, you know, Ted, Keeley, Rebecca, all that kind of stuff. A lot in episode 1. We see the team obviously more this week. But like, it took until we actually went into the Crown and Anchor for me to be like, oh shit, I forgot about my guys. Moving into the thoughts, speaking of forgetting about people, when Jamie and Roy have their hug, I'm moving into the thoughts now. When Jamie follows Roy to the equipment room, and after he finds out that Roy and Keeley broke up, and they're having this moment, I love how they start to, how Jamie goes in for the hug, and Roy gets all like, what the fuck? Because that was a nice callback to my favorite moment of the whole series, which is when Roy hugged Jamie in at the end of season 2, episode 8, Man City. If you were not a fan of this channel at that time, go watch my video for season 2, episode 8. I loved that episode. But the reason I'm bringing this up, I was talking about like how I forget about people till I see them. They totally fucking got me with William in the equipment room. Like if that got you, did you not feel stupid for not thinking that ahead of time? Like, I don't know how I didn't think, like, hey, y'all might want to look for William, see if he in there. Like, I don't know why I didn't think of that. So then when Jamie goes, and William, don't you say anything either, I said, oh, shit, William, he always in there. I thought that was great. I love how they got me. That was a really good moment. Another thing I liked was Beard yelping every time the possibility of getting Zava was mentioned. I thought that was great, but it was nowhere near as good as Ted fainting when he found out about Roy and Keeley breaking up. Because, like, so he faints, right? I go to rewind the scene because I want to look at Jason Sudeikis' face. He enters before that news is shared. He has whatever face he's wearing. That face did not change when until he fainted. So it's like you almost like I missed the faint the first time because I wasn't even really looking at him like that because he was just standing there. So when I rewind it, he's just standing there blank and he just like falls out and his face didn't change and shit. It was so good. But maybe I got a thing for faint jokes though, because my favorite part of the trailer was the part where Beard faints after Ted says something like, oh, Roy says, good job. And then Beard goes, oh, like he even made a sound like that. I don't know. But I might just have a thing for faint jokes. I don't know. But I thought that was really funny. Speaking of William, going back to William, I love when Ted sent him to go get that breakup CD. And he's like, what's a CD? I'm like, you motherfucker. I loved when Daddy said he hasn't. I feel like this is a joke that's like, most people aren't going to find it that funny, but it was really funny to me when Danny said he hasn't been this nervous since he played in El Chapo's youth league. I was like, I don't know. That just feels so random and just like, where did that even come from? I don't know. A good El Chapo reference on Ted Lasso. I also loved how Roy told Jamie not to tell anybody about the breakup. And not only did he tell the whole team, but somehow that usher Bruce at the Chelsea Stadium somehow found out about it. And I love how they played that scene too. They played it like Roy sneaking up on an old friend, right? Like, you motherfucker. Like, Bruce, you fucker. And then Bruce, like, you okay? Like, I heard about the breakup. Like, God damn. Like, that was really funny. And then, like, of course, you could of course relate to Roy's anger in that moment. Like, does the whole goddamn does the whole goddamn country know that I broke up with Keeley right now? Like, is it gonna be on like the show that Roy worked on last season as an analyst? Like, are you gonna talk about it on there? Former analyst. Last thought. Anyone else think this Zava character is gonna suck? I don't mean that like Jamie sucked, right? Jamie was a great character. It's just the character itself was a bad guy, right? So you don't like Jamie, but if you're able to do this, you can not like the Jamie character, but acknowledge that the character is good for the show. I feel like Zava is gonna be both a bad character and a bad guy. Like, he's gonna be Jamie as within the show, but he's also not gonna be he's also gonna be a bad character for the show. And I'm not looking forward to like a mediocre fucking character fucking up the vibe on the team. Like, if he's a good character, but a bad guy who fucks up the vibe, I'm cool with that. But I don't know. I guess let me see him work. Let me see what they have planned for this character. But if he's an unfunny, uninteresting, irritating character, that's just gonna suck. But I hope I'm wrong. But yeah, I thought, I guess to kind of wrap up, I really like the stuff that they did with Roy in this episode. I'm really not a fan of Rebecca. This whole angle of Rebecca being jealous and trying to compete with Rupert, because I feel like it's a regression in Rebecca's character. I'm not a big fan of Keeley on the solo thing with the CFO. I don't really know where that's going. But like I said, I'm loving the Roy stuff, loving the Trent stuff. I'm hoping that we're going to get something a little bit more interesting going on with Ted as well. I don't know where that's going to go, but we didn't see Nate this week either. So there's a lot of things that I'm hoping to see going forward that we haven't seen much of so far. But again, we're only 2 episodes in out of 12. There's a whole lot of time left. I will see you guys next week for episode 3. And until then, peace.